Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom with Bob Olson, who will now introduce today's show and speaker.
Welcome to Cry Oneness, a program with Joe Avalos, to encourage people to share their experience with God, their miracles, their music, their poetry. Share your life. And now here he is, Joe Avalos. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Bob. Good to hear you again. Boy, what a great week I had for spiritual events. It was crazy but wonderful at the same time. You know, just like life is. It's good and bad at the same time. You never know what's going to happen next. It's a journey, not a destination.
It's exciting, huh?
It was definitely exciting. It was scary and wonderful and everything else this week. So I got a locution at the beginning of the week. It's called The Big Picture. And I was just sitting around and this started coming to me. I was driving in my car and I kept hearing the big picture, the big picture. And I'm thinking, what the heck does he mean, the big picture? So this came out. The big picture. We are all part of the big picture. But big does not even come close to describing the length, width, and breadth of this big sacred picture. It is both the glue that holds us all together and the Teflon that lets us slip off the edges. We usually get in trouble when we try to become the big picture instead of being happy to be a microscopic part of it. And it's not a still picture, it's a motion picture. And the writer is both the whole picture and a member of the cast who made a special appearance some 2,000 years ago. He is a superstar and became world famous and infamous between the ages of 30 and 33. Then the Prince of Darkness became jealous and thought he had him killed. But he returned from the dead and the battle continues to date, each using their armies of supporters to attempt to create more in favor of their cause. We all observe this spiritual battle like spectators in a Colosseum. We choose the side we support by our actions. Sometimes it's hard to tell the light from the dark side because the dark likes to pretend to be the light. That's why we all need sponsors and spiritual advisors to keep us on the narrow path.
That's a good one.
I think so, right?
When did you do that?
About 4 days ago.
Wow.
I was driving to my meeting at the noon meeting, and I kept hearing the big picture, the big picture. And I pulled over when I got to the meeting in the parking lot, and it just came out like water from a faucet. Yeah.
Yeah.
They call it flow, I guess. I call it a locution. I was just thinking, I didn't even know what a locution was until I had something happen in Vero Beach when I wrote that first poem. I thought it was a poem, but didn't think it was a poem. The only reason I know it's a locution is because a priest told me it was a locution when I showed it to him. And that was Father John Jude in Vero Beach, Florida, at John of the Cross Church, because this frustrated me. It scared me so bad when it started happening that I went to see a priest about it. And I went into his office, and I said, Father, I wish you could talk to me because this is upsetting me. I got this thing. People are telling me it's a poem, but I don't think it's a poem. Can you tell me what it is? And he looked at it, and what it means, I said. And he said, Joe, I'll tell you this, and his Father John Jude told me this. He said, it's not a poem, it's a locution, it's a spiritual message. And he said, it's about salvation. And he said, and Ralph Martin is here today giving a talk on his new book, The Fulfillment of All Our Desire. And his book is about salvation. So, on me, sit in on the presentation today from Ralph Martin for free. You don't even have to pay. Just go in there. It's going on now. Tell him I sent you. Sit down, and you don't even have to pay for the event. So that's how it all started. Before that, I didn't even know what a locution was. I'd never even heard the word before.
This is what it says in, I Googled it, and it says, 1, a word or phrase, especially with regard to style or idiom. Number 2, an utterance regarded in terms of its intrinsic meaning or reference as distinct from its function or purpose in context.
Mm-hmm. Hello?
Here's some more. A particular form of expression or a peculiarity of phrasing, especially a word or expression characteristic of a region, group, or cultural level. Or a locution is a form of private revelation similar to an apparition, but rather than being seen a locution.
That's the one that fits, I think, right? Say that again, Bob.
This is from Catholic Answers. A locution is a form of private revelation similar to an apparition, but rather than being seen a locution.
That's it right there. That's what Father John Jude told me it was.
Yeah.
As with all claims of private revelation, it is important to be certain that a locution is authentic before any recognition or significance is determined. So the Catholic Church recognizes locutions, but they like to investigate them.
Here's more. A mode of supernatural revelation.
Right. Well, that describes that. That's what I think it is. I've also talked to some people in the music business, and in particular, I talked to a gentleman who was a publisher, Times Magazine, I think it was, and he said, "Well, what we call it in our business is when a writer calls that, it's called flow.
Flow.
Things come out spontaneously without even trying to imagine what it is. It's called flow. Musicians and writers get that. It's called flow. That's how musicians get their music sometimes, and how writers get their inspiration. It's called flow. A person who has flow can write music and stories without thinking about it. It just comes from the heart, I guess." We know who lives in the heart, correct?
Right.
So it makes sense. The mind is always cluttered. But I guess when you start getting discernment, you kind of understand which thoughts are your higher power and which thoughts are your lower power and which thoughts aren't yours at all. And I think that's what locution is. Locution is thoughts that you don't own that are coming from your spiritual connection.
An interior locution is a mystical concept used by various religions, including the Roman Catholic Church.
There it goes again. That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Then you get into the private revelation issue. Is it authentic or not?
Yeah.
Did you see that part?
No, I didn't.
Let me read this. This is from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Through the ages, there have been so-called private revelations. This would be like St. Faustina, I believe, some of which have been recognized by the authority of the Church. They do not belong, however, to the deposit of faith. It is not their role to improve or complete Christ's definitive revelation, but to help live more fully by it in a certain period of history. Guided by the magisterium of the Church, the sensus fidelium knows how to discern and welcome in these revelations whatever constitutes an authentic call of Christ or his saints to the Church. Christian faith cannot accept revelations that claim to surpass or correct the revelation of which Christ is the fulfillment, as is the case in certain non-Christian religions and also in certain recent sects, which base themselves on such revelations. That's from the Catechism, section 67.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Okay, so that was a good little exercise in understanding locutions, so people know what we're talking about. I think that's helpful.
So tell us about your music festival.
Well, I went to a music festival in Western Connecticut University in Danbury this weekend that was dedicated. It was called, it wasn't Woodstock. They called it something like Woodstock. I can't remember the exact name, but it was an imitation of the Woodstock Festival. And it was a one-day event, and it started at 10 o'clock in the morning and went till 10:30 at night. And they had all bands just like they did at Woodstock. So I was at a noon meeting, and I didn't have anything to do planned, and a guy named Joe, who walks my dogs for me, came to the same meeting, and he told me he and his friends were going to a concert afterwards, and he asked me if I'd like to go. So I immediately Googled it on my phone and purchased a ticket, and I tagged along with him and another friend, and we sat down on lawn chairs, and I started talking to the friend he brought, and the friend he brought, his name is Steve, and he wound up being another poet, and he had very similar life experiences to what I had growing up and everything, and we had an amazing discussion. He writes poetry, I write poetry, so that was the first instance. And then I took a walk up, and I brought myself some lunch, and I'm walking around all these food booths and souvenir booths and things, and Costco was there giving out samples and promoting their TV and stuff, and I got to the booth where they were selling T-shirts for the Grateful concert, which is on August 18th and 19th, and the guy said, "Thanks for supporting the music festival." And they were selling T-shirts from last year with no date on them that they were selling for $5 each, so I purchased one of those. And then a lady came up, and I started talking to her, and I explained that I was writing a book and things, and I asked a couple of questions, and we got right into talking about spirituality. And I explained some of the stuff that was happening to her, and she was a marketing person, and she explained that they have tables for rent at these events for $200 where you can sell T-shirts, hats for an organization and stuff like this, and that became part of the discussion. But then I shared some locutions and stuff with her, and she was visibly tearing in the eyes hearing some of the stuff that I was telling her. And Wow. She told me that she felt all my revelations were sincere and real, and it was amazing. So then I left her, and I walked over to this other booth where they were selling like tie-dyes and stuff from the 60s to go along with the Woodstock theme. And I walked up to this one guy, and I said, "I have a spiritual poem. Would you like to hear it?" Because we got talking. And I shared, in the wilderness, a single candle flickers in the dark and hardened heart of time. And he wound up being in 12-step work, too. So that was another thing. And then later on the same day, I went back to the same booth, and I was sharing more stuff with the same guy. We started talking about a lot of stuff, and another guy piped in, and he wound up being the owner of this booth. He has a store in Danbury that sells this memorabilia all the time, and he's very spiritual, and he's been struck by lightning, and he had a revelation from Christ or whoever he believes in, and he said he had a picture of a door opening with a light behind it when the electrical current was still going through him, and it was like everything was going in fast speed, and words but not words were coming in and out of him. He almost described the exact thing that happened to me in the hotel room in Waterbury, where I got my revelation. So he had like a white light experience, just like I did. And after this, he was told some things by the light, and he wound up getting enough money to get out of the hole and start business afresh. So a lot of good stuff happened at that festival.
His nickname is Lightning. His nickname is Lightning, huh?
Yeah. All his friends call him that because he shares his story with a lot of people. So he got that nickname. So there's plenty of people having spiritual experiences. It's too bad they don't start sharing them on shows like this,
Yeah.
People are afraid. They're too timid to share what God's doing in their lives. And that's why the media, the negative part of the media is taken over, because people want to hear the bad news. That's why the media gives everybody the bad news. That's what they respond to. They want more and more of the wrong stuff.
Right.
People have to start sharing what's good in their life and not what's horrible in their life. Because what is definitely good in their life is the spiritual presence they have inside of them, which is the Spirit of Christ. And if it's not the Spirit of Christ to some people, there's still a spirit in them that they have some belief about that is more important than they are. So I really believe if people start sharing their miracles on media sites instead of what's wrong with the world condition would start improving. So Cry Oneness, the book and everything else, is my personal effort to get people to share good stuff instead of bad stuff. And I hope when the book comes out, people will start buying it and maybe start sharing their miracles online. I'd be overjoyed if only like 150 people started doing that. It would help a little bit, you know. But I don't think it's a good indication that nobody's calling in with us, because maybe people don't really care about changing anything. Maybe they're happy being in the mud they're stuck in, you know. I know I wasn't happy. When I was back in the days when I was stuck in the mud, I thought I was happy, but I was far from happy. There's some people that are going to spend their entire lives never knowing what it's like to have a spiritual conversion, and I feel so bad for them. Because the spiritual conversion that I had, I would love for everybody to have. I feel sorry for people who die never having a spiritual conversion. And I know that happens. And I know it almost happened to me. And I can remember the prayer to change things for me when I was taking care of my mother with Alzheimer's. And this is long before I even got into AA and everything. Taking care of my mother with Alzheimer's, still trying to do everything my own way, still sharing all my horrible stories with everybody instead of the good part of life that was happening to me. And my mother has Alzheimer's, and it's getting worse and worse, and she came after me with steak knives one night because I asked her where the steak knives were. And my beautiful saintly mother started doing this as a result of a horrible disease, and I got into self-pity and everything else, and I'm kneeling down at the foot of my bed one night, and my prayer was, God, please let my mom die before this keeps happening to her. And please, I ask you this, Lord, please teach me how to live before I die, because I know I'm not doing it right. And it was another 4 years before I got in the help I needed, you know. But he answers all prayers eventually when you're sincere about them. But you know the problem is, it's like what I got that revelation at the yoga center, what I heard in my heart from the Dalai Lama when I'm looking at his picture.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was the Dalai Lama giving this message, but I know I got this message right in front of the Dalai Lama picture. Don't let the lie you're living become the truth of who you are. So many people in this world are living in a lie, and they wouldn't know the truth if it hit them in their rear end, you know? And that's just part of the spiritual process. But anybody who wants to can change that anytime they get down on their knees and pray to whatever higher power they believe in to help them. Because even if Christ isn't in their life, Christ knows they're down on their knees asking for help. And Christ will help anybody like he did when he was here the first time around. He helped everybody. He didn't restrict himself to Jews or Gentiles. He helped sinners. Non-denominational. He didn't care. If there was a sinner in front of him, he helped the sinner. And he lived with sinners, and he ate with sinners. I don't know. That's the way we got to be again, I think, you know.
Oh, definitely.
We have a tendency in this world just to judge other people and not hang around with them if they're not as good as us. And that's horrible. When you start judging people instead of accepting people, that's when problems really start. All kinds of problems, anger and hate and revenge and lust and envy, and all the 7 deadly sins are based on not accepting other people the way they are. Constantly trying to change things to suit your own needs. The pity. And you know, I still do that stuff to a minor degree. We're all human. But we got to stick together. The only way to conquer sin is to know you're a sinner and stick around with other sinners who need your help and be there for them. That's what St. Francis did. That's what all the saints did. They got out with the poor and the hungry, and they dug in and listened and accepted and joined them in their sorrow and grief. They didn't stay in their convents and in their churches, hiding from the poor and the sick. They went out and helped them. Saint after saint after saint after saint, all the same thing, helping the poor and the hungry, doing something totally out of their comfort zone to help other people. That's what we do in these meetings that I go to all the time. We accept everybody exactly the way they are, and they wind up getting healed. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All inclusive.
I was trying to find something I was reading earlier that goes along with what you were talking about. So you don't want to share the scary thing that happened to you this week, huh?
I will share something. I had a person I was trying to help in this program, and it's not easy helping people in this program sometimes. And the person, I picked him up and signed him out from a medical facility, and I tried to help him before, and I wasn't going to help him again, but he called me and apologized and everything, and I said, well, I'll give him another chance, and I did, because I was given many chances, and he wanted to go to his doctor's office and his house, and I told him I could only help him until 5:30, and he started pressuring me to get cigarettes and go here and go there, and I said, look, I have to be someplace at 5:30. I'll get you to your apartment so you can pick up your clothes for tomorrow, but I can't do anything else. So then we got there, and he said he was going to take a cab home after I signed him out of a facility, and I said, and he did that to me once before, and it's why I wasn't going to help him again. I said, I can't do it again. I said, if you don't come back with me this time, I'm going to have to go back and tell him you're not with me because, I'm not going to be a cover for you to do whatever you need to do. And he got really mad, and he got right in my face. He had his fist to my mouth, and he had his walker and a cane, and he threw it at my car. And I felt something other than him in the area, and it was very evil. And my stomach, I had the flight or fight reaction in my system going on, and I didn't say anything to him. I just listened, and he continuously threatened me and then went into his house to get his clothes and he said, if you leave, I'll kill you. So I stayed there, and I didn't leave. And then he tortured me all the way back to the facility, telling me what he was going to do. And then when I got into the parking lot, I went up to the door, and I was walking fast, and he said, if you don't wait for me to follow you, I'm going to tear your car apart. I said, go ahead, I'm going in and signing you back in. If you want to wait in the parking lot, fine. So, sometimes you have to stand your ground with people, even if you're trying to help them. You always have to accept the person, but you don't always have to accept their actions.
No.
And I will tell you, when he was ready to hit me, and I could see the spirit of anger in him so clearly, and I can see that he was ready to hit me, and he threw the stuff against my car, and he had the fist to within 2 inches of my face, and I felt a force holding the fist back. And it wasn't me, because I had my hands on my lap. And he was within 2 inches of hitting my face, and something stopped it. And I know what that something is, and so do you, right, Bob?
Great. Al Wolofsky in the 6 o'clock program was talking about, I had heard this before, about this guy that was on his college campus, and he was killing some girls with a baseball bat. His name was Ted Bundy. I don't know if you remember him or not.
Mm-hmm. I don't. But...
And when he got to this one girl's room, he stopped and he left. And they asked him, why did you leave there? Why didn't you continue? And he said, well, there was something going on in that room. There was a strong force. And this girl was praying the Rosary.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about power, see?
Oh, power. That rosary is very powerful. I pray that every day, and I'm sure that had something to do with me not getting it, too, you know. And the Divine Mercy Chaplet I do every day. And I had done that at 3 o'clock before I picked him up, so that had a lot to do with it. Prayer has a lot to do with everything. What we don't see helps us a lot more than what we do see. So here's another one just like that. What about Left to Tell? You remember that book by Immaculate?
Oh, yeah.
So she's trapped in a bathroom, or hidden in a bathroom from an opposing tribe, and the tribe was actually in the house they were being sheltered at. And they prayed feverishly. They knew the tribe was going to come kill them, and they started praying even harder. And they passed out from fear because they heard the people right at the door ready to open it. And these tribes had been taking babies out of drawers and slaughtering babies, newborns that were hidden in drawers by the other tribe, you know, the tribe that was getting slaughtered. And then the next thing that Immaculate remembers was coming to consciousness, and the man that was sheltering them from the opposing tribe telling her, "It's amazing," he said. They had their hand right on the doorknob, and they turned around to me and said, "Well, we trust you. We're not going to search in this room," and they left. Every other house, they opened drawers and killed babies in drawers. In this house, where they were praying the rosary, they touched the doorknob and turned around and left while they were praying the rosary on the other side.
Yep.
Power of the Holy Spirit and Mother Mary, right? The spouse.
There were like, I think, weren't there something like, was it 30 people in that room, or there was a lot of them?
I heard there was her and 2 other girls in the room that they were hiding in. That's what I remember. Maybe I'm wrong now.
Oh, I don't know.
But it was her and 2 other girls in the same closet that was almost opened. But I'd have to reread that, I guess. That was 2008, you know, before I went to Immaculate's conference the second time in New York City. That was back in, just before I went to Florida, maybe 2006, where she appeared at my father's house. That was a wonderful retreat. Immaculate gives great retreats. If anybody has an opportunity to go to Immaculate's retreats, she has such a presence, it's unbelievable. And she goes to Rwanda every year and talks to the visionaries who are seeing Mary every year, because she's still appearing over there in Kibeho. And it's Our Lady of Kibeho is a legitimate Catholic site for apparitions of Our Lady. So, and I told you this before. Last year, the year before I went to that conference in New York, the same year I went there, that was 2 years ago now, when I went down and had that little miracle in the Sacred Heart of Mary and Jesus Church with Immaculate, with the locution, the lady from Newtown and everything. Immaculate told me, this year Mary appeared to the visionaries, and she told the visionaries, "Tell my children I desire that they share their miracles." And that's kind of interesting, you know, because that's the same message I've been getting. Have people share their miracles. Oh, and that's the other thing. When I was talking to this guy, I don't even know if he's Catholic or Christian. He says he's a child of the universe. He told me that he read a book that said that in the end of times, the way the world is going to be saved is by people sharing their miracles. I just heard that Saturday. This is the guy that got struck by lightning.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Isn't that amazing?
Amazing is right.
The Holy Spirit is so active these days, isn't he, Bobby?
Right.
Right? I mean, I just saw on YouTube this week, I think 2 days ago, from Pope Francis, a picture in the sky with Christ in the clouds. Much clearer than mine, but a ghost-like appearance, not a face appearance. A whole figure. 2 of them in the sky at the same time. Now, I couldn't figure out where it was from, but the post was from Pope Francis. So I got to follow up on that and try to figure out where that vision was. Maybe I'll go back on tonight and try to locate it online. And this just happened 3 days ago. The picture was taken 3 days ago, and the Pope posted it 3 days ago. Have you seen that one yet?
No.
On Facebook?
No, I didn't.
It was from Pope Francis, and 2 people I know who believe strongly in the Catholic faith were the ones that saw it and reposted it on my Facebook page. Lupinacci's and the Polici family. And that's where I had my last drink at their restaurant. So it's kind of funny, right?
Huh.
So,
Really?
yeah. So, yep. A new picture of figures in the sky. Full bodies, though, not just a face. Full spiritual bodies like the one I saw in the mirror in my hotel room in Waterbury in 2003. Full figures, not partial figures. Ghostly looking. Same shape as Mary and Jesus.
Here's an interesting story. We wake at 5 a.m. because we are told everyone in our hotel has come for the same reason, to see 92-year-old Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States, conduct Bible study at Maranatha Baptist Church. An hour later, still 45 minutes before sunrise, my wife and I, along with her brother and his wife, are driving 10 miles west from America to Plains. The man handing out numbers at Maranatha Baptist says that at 6:25, we are car number 72, and he reckons that 160 people will stand in line ahead of us. About 7:45, we line up by car number in a swarm of gnats. At the front door, I empty my pockets, and a Secret Service agent waves a wand across my front and backside. Once I get inside, I give thanks for air conditioning and the absence of gnats. And greeting visitors in the foyer is Maranatha's 23-year-old minister, Brandon Patterson, who was hired just 2 months earlier and won't graduate from the McAfee School of Theology at Mercer University in Atlanta until December. At 9:50, Rosalind Carter, who turns 90 in August, takes a seat in the fifth row along the wall to my right. A few minutes later, Jimmy walks in, his weathered face smiling, microphone in hand. Today, he says, we'll be reviewing one of the most difficult sections of the Bible. Carter asks if there are any ministers or missionaries present. 3 stand, and Carter asks one to deliver an opening prayer. Isn't that something?
That is something.
92 years old, teaching Bible study. Jimmy Carter.
That is great. That's like that guy I met on the auto train on the way back to Vero Beach. He was 90 years old, and I asked him to look at my poems. And I said, I think I'm too old for this stuff to be happening to me. And he said, no, you're not. I'm 90 years old, and I'm taking piano lessons when I get back to Florida. You're never too old to do anything, but you always have to realize that when you stop being open to learning, you're in a lot of trouble. You have to be open to learn new things if you want to stay young, right, Bob?
Oh, right. You have to take.
You can't have a closed mind and expect to stay around too long, because once you don't have any desire to do anything, you're surrendering to death. If you want to live, you have to live. You have to keep living.
Yeah, I just happened to see that.
My friend Galdino Velasco, he's 86 years old now, and him and his wife, until this year, were still running a Mexican restaurant, Taco Guadalajara's, in downtown Stanford, every single day. The two of them, from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night in that restaurant, cooking for people, serving people, and also serving the community. Galdino was an advocate for Hispanics in Stanford all his life, and he was a friend of my grandfather. And plus, the last 10 years, he's been going to kidney dialysis twice a week and still operating his restaurant full-time. And he told me, I asked him how you can do this, and he said, Joe, I made a decision. I am going to die walking. And him and his wife are both the same age, both of them, just retired last year. Sold the restaurant to other people, and they're still involved in helping them train. Amazing, right? Then my other friend, 86 years old, the Jewish friend that I have that reads my poetry at their Seder, the Goldfarbs, you know, they're in San Diego now. Guess what they did when they got out to San Diego after moving from Stanford? I helped them move. get all the stuff out of their basement and stuff so that they can move easily. I was working for them every weekend for a couple of years because he was a planner. He still does OSHA compliance work. He has his own consulting business. And they moved to San Diego, and now both he and his wife have joined a college, and they're taking courses at the college every week to learn more. And they're 86 years old.
Isn't that something?
I know somebody else in their 80s, and a good friend of mine. I do a radio show with them.
Yeah, that's right.
And he still has more energy than me, I think.
Not right now, but...
No, well...
But I did have a lot of energy.
Aren't you still doing 20 radio shows a week, Bob?
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so how many 86-year-old people are doing 20 radio shows a week?
That's true. Let's see. I wish I could have found that article because what it says is because you were talking about, we have to love everyone.
Yeah.
Like you say,
well, we don't have to like everyone. Yeah. We have to love everyone, but we're allowed not to like some people if they're hurting us.
We don't have to live with everyone either.
Right, and we don't have to stay with them if they're hurting us.
No. But
just passing through, yeah.
I mean, well, this article was saying that maybe I'll show. I don't know. This article was saying that even if someone is saying something nasty to you, that you can, you don't have to retaliate.
Right.
You can go up to them and say something like, I still love you. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, that's what I said to this gentleman last night. I said, "Good luck in court tomorrow." That was my last parting words with him. Good luck in court.
Yeah.
And he snarled at me, and I just kept walking.
Oh, I had this girl I used to give rides to in the town and back, and I witnessed something kind of similar, but it wasn't as violent as what you were talking about. But I don't know. She wanted me to stop and go somewhere, and it wasn't the right thing to do. And I had picked up some medicine. She was going to throw it out the window if I wouldn't stop.
Mhm.
But I talked her out of it. So.
Yeah.
But that happens.
Yep.
Here I was giving her a ride into town and giving her a ride back, and she wanted her way.
Same thing with this guy last night, He wanted his way. There's no talking to him, so I didn't.
That's right. So you're pretty excited about the book, huh?
Yeah, I love the cover that Sebastian did, He used the photo I took in Vero Beach, but he put such simple yet effective wording on the cover. You have a copy of it, right? I sent it to you by email. Did you get it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so even the font that he chose was exactly what I would have chosen myself, and I was chuckling with him. I said, you and the Holy Spirit did a great job on that book cover, and he says he loves it when the Spirit uses him to do stuff, So, and so do I. There's those times where when your fingers are moving, it's not you, and when your mouth is moving, it's not you.
Yeah.
Not you is who we have to trust, So I wanted to read this tribal conquistador thing that I wrote because it kind of gave me comfort to read this last night when I was really upset. Some people have a lot of the good spirit in them, and some of them have a lot of the bad spirit in them, but you have to accept them anyway. So I like this. My friends in the spirit have something much bigger than anything the world can bring them. They hang out in tribes and share their experiences in life. Their higher powers take their darkness and make it light on them and all those around them. They call this grace. It allows them to face and walk through fear and pain, to live each day like it's their last, to love without conditions, to speak kindly and without fear, to surrender quickly and to forgive immediately those who harm them, to walk a steady beam without worry of falling or failing, to get out of their own way and let God's light shine through, even when in distress, to love and serve each other, being the eyes, ears, and hands of their co-creator, to share God's pain and joy by relentlessly accepting the struggle they call life. One day at a time, anything is possible. Then they learn how to live in the moment where everything is possible, in that moment with God, where love finally triumphs over fear, in a place called the eternal now, also known as heaven on earth, the start of eternity. I wanted to talk about one line in here that stuck out at me. Allows them to face and walk through fear and pain. That's exactly what happened to me last night. If I retaliated, I might be dead today, because that's how much anger I was facing. I didn't resist the anger with force. I resisted it with peace. And you know, when I get a little mad at my dog, he does the same thing I did last night. He rolls over and shows me his soft side, and I can't do a thing to him.
That's right.
Not that I would, but...
St. John of the Cross said, where you don't find love, if you'll put love there, you'll find love. And you haven't found the love yet from him, but you felt love yourself.
I know he's got love buried inside him. It's called the immortal diamond, right? That diamond is in there someplace. He's not digging for it yet. He's still looking at other people for the solution to all his problems. His solution is within him, not without of him.
That's right.
We find out the hard way, right? His solution is right there in him. When he looks in the mirror and sees himself as the problem, that's the start.
You didn't tell us about the Spanish celebration.
Oh, yeah. Let me get to that after this, though. This is the one that stuck out of me. To walk a steady beam without worry of failing or falling. So that reminds me of something I read. I think it was from Richard Rohr, one of the other people I read all the time. You know, daily meditations.
Right.
I heard this, and this, I think it is Rohr, and he said, you know, life can get crazy sometimes. You know, it's like walking on a tightrope or a beam, you know. But the good news is God's created a net under the tightrope or the beam. And do you know what the name of the net is? Do you know, Bob?
Not really.
Silence is the name of the net.
Oh, okay.
God lives in the space between words. And that's where you find the peace you need to overcome any anxiety you're having.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation, contemplation.
Works
sitting
for
in
me
his
every
presence.
time.
Yep.
Every time I have anxiety, I just get real quiet.
And that's what I did last night when I got home, because I still had that giant knot in my stomach from fear. You know, you can actually feel fear. You know, it's a knot in your stomach. It's like right under your heart on the left side of your diaphragm, and that knot gets bigger and bigger the more fear you have. And that's the adrenaline that's produced as a defense mechanism by your body when you're physically threatened. And that doesn't wear off unless you do something special. And I just learned through meditation the day before this happened what you're supposed to do, because I have this meditation on my iPhone, a guy helping me through for when my mind is noisy. You know, I got this little application, very soothing. And he says, the only way to handle the feelings you have in your body is to accept them and wait until they pass, and do not try to rush them away. Sit focused on the discomfort until it dissipates. In other words, let go and let God. And God doesn't remove anything too quickly. I have a sign on my refrigerator. It says, God did not create hurry. You know, when the body is traumatized by fear or anything else, it takes a while for it to dissipate. You can't rush it. You have to embrace it and accept it before you can let it go. Correct?
That's right.
And then in the program, we say it a different way. This is my program that I go to every day. The slogan is, this too will pass. And that goes for everything. Unless we start feeding our thoughts, they'll go away. If we're afraid and we feed the fear, we'll get worse. We have to move a muscle, change a thought, and let the thought go, or it's not going to go. It's going to get fatter, and we're not going to be able to let go of it. That guy that got struck by lightning explained how he was when the current was going through him. He could not let go, even though he was being electrocuted. He was holding on to his washing machine while the lightning was going through him, and it was impossible for him to release. So while the current's there, you can't release. While the fear's there, the only way to release it is to focus on it and accept it. Then you can release it. When you're getting thoughts you don't like, it's the same thing. You have to accept the thought before you can let it go. It's like with my disease. Until you accept that you're an alcoholic, you can't stop being one. Until you accept that you're a sinner, you can't stop being one. So that's page 417 of this big book that I read in my program. Until you accept life as being exactly the way it's supposed to be in this moment, every person, place, thing, and situation in your life being exactly the way it is supposed to be, you cannot have true peace. Acceptance is the solution to all our problems today. Amazing how a drunk can write something like that and save millions of drunks all over the world. Bill Wilson came up with that, you know?
Yep.
Isn't that amazing? The largest spiritual movement of the century, they say, when that happened to Bill Wilson. Just one drunken person having a revelation from God. I guess you would call him like a mustard seed, right? He had to die and come to life again and have God work through him and save millions of drunks. And still have meetings all over the world. Millions of people in the program, you know, just because one guy had a spiritual revelation that he openly shared with other people. He shared his miracles, he shared his wounds, and there was only 100 people wrote the big book with him. And the big book is very similar to the Bible in that it's the story of a bunch of alcoholics who shared how they had an encounter with God and how it saved their lives. The wounded healer concept. You can only help people with the same wounds that you have. The other thing I like to hear a lot is the way you help people who have dug a big hole for themselves is to climb down in the hole with them and show them how you got out.
That's right.
Yep. That's how all legitimate faith works.
I like that, Joe.
Yep.
I like that.
I like that too, and I don't remember where I read it, but I think I read it. I hear so many amazing things in the rooms, you know, people sharing all these. They're all a bunch of drunks. But some of the best philosophy in the world comes out of those rooms. People are the closest to God when they're having the most problems. Is that correct? It's
That's
like that
right.
footprints thing. You know, when there's only one set of footprints in the stand, that's when he's carrying you.
That's right.
Yep, he's right there in your pain because he has sharing your pain with him. And he's sharing his pain with you. That's what life's all about. So many people think they're not supposed to have pain. I was one of them, you know. Oh, why is God doing this to me? I like this phrase. God is a verb, not a noun. Whatever God thinks happens immediately. He doesn't ponder on things. Whatever he thinks comes into creation. If we imitate that, you know, when we get good gut instincts, we have to act on them, not sit on them. People get miracles, they have to share them, not hold them in. Let me read this one now, the Dead Sea, right? This is a locution I got, the River of Life locution. When your well is full of me, it is time to let it flow out to others. If you try to keep yourself full, you will lose what you have, for I am the river of life. No well is deep enough to contain the abundance of my mercy. To those I give much to, much is expected of. Be not like the Dead Sea, full of riches and minerals but not flowing out, unable to sustain life. Be instead like the river Jordan, living water flowing in and out, feeding the poor and the hungry, irrigating and creating rich soil on its banks for the sower of good seeds, growing into abundant fields of the Master's crop, prepared fully for the harvest.
These are all going to be in the book, right?
Yeah. That was all just in the sermon last week or the week before, right? Separating the good weeds from the good plants.
Right.
Impossible to do until the harvest. You got to let them grow together. So when you pull the weeds, pull good stuff out, the weeds out, you don't pull the good stuff out with it. Got to wait.
That's right.
He doesn't protect us from the weeds. He lets the weeds grow with us. Strengthens us. Right?
Right.
Side by side we grow. And in reality, he's the only one capable of judging which one is the weed and which one is the good one. We can't. We don't have that type of discernment. That's why we can't judge people. That's why even though I was so angry with this person and so much fear from this person, if I'm being spiritual, I'm not allowed to do anything but accept him, love him, but not set myself up for something like that again. But when you're there, you have to understand that it's not the person. It's the evil within that's acting out through this person, because he's not getting himself out of the way, you know, until he learns the same thing I learned. So,
well, you never expected him to react like that.
Well, no, I didn't expect that violent of a reaction, you know, just for telling him that I had to bring him back. It was a hot button for him. So,
have you known him before?
I helped him once before, and a similar thing happened, and he called and apologized, so I helped him again, and it was even worse this time.
Oh.
So.
Oh, no.
He called and begged me to take him out and apologize and everything else. He was just possibly setting me up for this. I don't know, you know. I think he always intended to use his truck to drive himself back or to get a cab or something. He just wanted to go back to his house. Maybe even had something at that house to help his pain, you know.
Yeah.
You never know what's in another person's heart.
Yeah, you can't
judge. You have to do your best to accept them just the way they are, and it's not easy sometimes, especially when they start screaming at you, you know. And you know what? Sometimes when you don't react to somebody like that, they get even madder.
Yeah, that's true. I experienced that too.
They're trying to make you angry, and when they can't do it, it really gets them in, you know, dizzy.
I had this one person that used to say all kinds of nasty things, and I just wouldn't I wouldn't respond. And because God was saying to me all the time, don't you say anything, because I had some pretty good thoughts, you know. I had some good retaliations.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, don't you say that. Don't you say anything. In fact, one time I thought he said shut up, but I don't know if he talks like that. What about the Spanish?
Okay, so this week I also got a communications from the HAGS, H-A-G-S group in Stanford. It's like, me and Galdino had this LAFOS Foundation, and we're involved in this HAGS Foundation, and it's another Spanish association and minority association in Stanford, and it meets in the West End Community Center, West Side Community Center in Stanford, and they're having a big health fair and Spanish Heritage Fair at the Hague Center on October 14th. And that's the month of my anniversary where I'm going to have 13 years in the program. And my anniversary is on the 1st of that month. So I signed up for a booth at that to talk about miracles and share about the book being out if it's out by then, or just taking pre-orders for the book. So that was interesting. That happened this week right after Sebastian finished with the cover this week, so that's kind of coincidental timing, would you say?
Yes, right.
Just like the festival I went to was coincidental, right after the cover's ready, I go to the festival and get to show some people the cover. So it's really crazy what's going on, Crazy is the Holy Spirit, I think. When you don't have anything to do with stuff and things are happening and it suits what you wanted to do yourself, that's pretty good, right?
Good.
Yeah. When I start doing things myself, I start to worry about it. But when things like that happen, when things are coming in front of me and I have nothing to do with it, that's when I'm sure it's the right decision. At least pretty sure. But I still have to talk to my sponsor about it, so you never know. Sometimes evil can pretend to be good, So that's his job, to pretend he's Christ, to get you confused.
Yeah, but we also have to take risks.
Yeah. You don't know if it's right or wrong until you do it sometimes, right, Bob?
That's right.
Because discernment can get real. You can't just keep mental masturbation things, it's not good. So that's another attack. When you get to the point where you overthink everything, that's not good either. So.
That's right.
Once you're on the beam, you can be fairly comfortable you're moving in the right direction unless something really disgusts you, So
you're going to have a table at that Spanish get-together?
Pardon me? Yeah, and I'm going to have a presentation I put together back in 2008. Right after I got the picture of the face at Taco Guadalajara's restaurant, I had like a press release. And I had a PowerPoint presentation together for it, and I just found that again last month. So I sent a copy to Sebastian. I think I sent a copy to you too, of the PowerPoint that I want to use if I go and give talks on the miracles, because it has everything in order for me, so I won't lose track of what I'm talking about. It's about 13 or 14 slides on PowerPoint, and I can bring a monitor with me. And I have my Apple TV with me, and I can put anything that's on my phone right onto the screen at the booth. So I'm all set to go, if the Lord wants me to.
Okay, we're at the end. 2 minutes. Do you have something?
Let me see if I can find a nice thing to read for the last 2 minutes.
Okay.
Say a little prayer that I get the right thing up.
Get the right thing out, Joe.
I'm just going to scroll and touch. Oh, this is a message. I got this a month ago. My dear trusted servant, we are pleased with the offerings you've been making. Listen carefully, speak even more carefully. Silence is frequently the best response. Waste not time trying to figure things out. Think and act on the desires of the heart, not the mind. Place your trust in Jesus, and your life will be beyond your wildest dreams. Stay focused on living a humble life of love and service. Act only on what is directly in front of you. Be patient and persistent in your silent time each morning. More will be revealed as needed. That's from Mary.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be back next week, same time, same station, with Joe Avalos and Cry Oneness. And in the meantime, see, where was I? In
Let's
the
ask
meantime,
everybody to pray. Please, everybody, please pray for this soul that's so angry that almost hurt me the other day. Please pray for him. He needs a lot of help.
May the Lord bless
Lord will
us,
know.
protect us. May the Lord bless us, protect us from all evil, and bring us to everlasting life. Amen.
Amen, Bob. Good night.
Okay, Joe. Thanks. Very good.
Thank you. Yep.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.